Oh, hello and welcome to the Movie Attic. I'm Mike, and as you can see, this is the attic where I discuss and review movies, DVDs, Blu-rays, and 4Ks for all the nice people out there in YouTube land. Hope you like that little special effect, because the movie I'm going to be reviewing today is the pioneer of that effect. Probably done better by him, of course. This is a very amateur show, as you probably already have guessed. So, without further ado, let's get into today's big movie. It is magic. A Trip to the Moon by Georges Melies. There's the back. Inside it comes with a Blu-ray and a DVD and the book. If I can get the book out. I think that's his movie studio, and there's a scene from the movie, and of course it's chock full of all kinds of information. There's no inside artwork. This was one of the, I think it was the very first steelbook I ever picked up. It was a limited edition at the time, and of course this was the first time this movie was released in color. And I have the piece of paper again. It's from 1902. It's about 15 minutes long. It's hand colored, which before I discovered this movie, I never knew that they made color movies back that far. The aspect ratio is 1:3:3:1. The soundtrack for the color version, which I guess you can choose it on the black and white version too, is by Air. It's put out by Flicker Alley, and it comes with two bonus Melies movies. The Eclipse from 1904 and The Astronomer's Dream from 1898. So there you have it. No, there's more information. I discovered this director, I should say, many years ago when Hugo first came out. If you know what Hugo is, I don't think I have a copy sitting around here anyway. But anyway, it was pretty much the story of Georges Melies, plus it mixed in another story, which is also a true story. So after I saw that movie, of course, I was all over the place looking up all these movies and this guy. And as it turns out, he's the, the first wizard of cinema, which he made all these special effects, and basically these special effects were used for over 100 years. He had one of the first movie studios ever made. He did this hand coloring thing to put some of these movies in color. And I bought all these relatively when the one seems like it's pretty hard to get anymore, and the steelbook's a little pricey nowadays. But basically it's the story of a group of guys. They decide, and this is like, I don't know, it looks almost like I don't even know what year it would look like these people came from. around the time of Galileo, maybe. So anyway, they decide they're going to go to the moon, and they build this rocket, more or less a bullet, and it gets fired out of this huge gun. In fact, this gun looks so long like it could have reached the moon by itself. It was almost like Guns of Navarone gun long. And of course, they fire it off, and it lands right in the moon's face. One of the more iconic pictures in cinema. Actually, I'd known about that picture before I knew anything about the movie and anything about Georges Melies. So they land on the moon, or in the moon, basically. And then they encounter these creatures, I guess you could call them. And then they battle them for a little while, and then they come back to Earth to a hero's welcome. Short movie, like I say, 15 minutes. Some of the special effects, of course, for me, I thought were amazing. Melies influenced many people, and a lot of people in the business know of him. Carol Zeman, of course, used a lot of these kind of special effects and put his own spin on some of this stuff. Plus, Carol Zeman used stop motion and a whole pile of different effects. But when I was watching this movie again in preparation for this review, I watched some of the other things on this movie here, or this Fairy Tales in Color version of Melies. And I was watching some of those other movies of these fantastical voyages, and some of them, the cars of the train and the different things are, cut away so you can see the inside, almost like Wes Anderson does. Whether he got that from Georges Melies or not, I don't know, but I thought that was cool. Of course, I also watched, there's a documentary on the bonus features about Georges Melies, and it's kind of a tragic story of how he ended up, and then he pretty much destroyed all the negatives to his movies. So out of like 500 and some movies, there's only basically 200 still in existence, at least unless they find some more. But if you know anything about this film stock stuff, time kind of is running out on that. Like I say, I love Georges Melies. I was thrilled when I heard the announcement that they had found a color version of the movie. I think they found it in Spain. And whenever this steelbook come up, of course, I got it right away. The only thing I will say about this version of the movie that's on the steelbook, a lot of people I saw comments early on, negative comments, was that they didn't care for this. They made they had a group, this Air, make a modern soundtrack to it. And from what I read in different comments on Amazon, a lot of people did not care for that soundtrack. And on this version of the or this edition of the movie, you don't have an option out of that. You can only listen to that modern soundtrack. I think they did re-release the color version on a regular, not a steelbook, and whether you can have an option for other, because the black and white version, you have like 4 different options of like a piano, like people doing an audio reading or an orchestra or this air group. So why they didn't put all 4 options for the color version, I have no idea. But I was happy to pick it up because it seems like it's a little pricey now. So if I was to rate a trip to the moon, I would give it probably a 9 out of 10 pink rolls of insulation. Rolls of pink insulation. See how professional this show is? I would give it 9 rolls of pink insulation out of 10. Obviously, these things aren't in great shape, and if you like your movies pristine, this is far from pristine, but what they went through to restore this movie is probably something pretty miraculous. So, I guess that'll do it for this episode of the Movie Attic. But if you have this edition, or you've seen A Trip to the Moon, black and white or color, leave a comment down in the comments section. I'd love to discuss all of Melies' stuff. He's got quite a collection, and this isn't even half the stuff he produced, like I say. So until next time, when I'll have a completely different movie, and it won't be a silent movie, that I'm pretty sure of. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention too, from the time I got this camera to the time I put out my first video was approximately a 6-month window. Because, like I said before, the videos were so terrible, and I know this isn't much better. But this is one of the 5 movies that I originally was starting with. Like, the first one was that Sky Captain, which I have an episode of, finally. Then, The Christmas Martian. And then there was 2 other movies which I haven't put a video out for yet, and then this one, A Trip to the Moon. So I finally got around to putting it out pretty much a year later. So, until next time, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you then.